Okay guys, this is Illustrator Lesson 2, and today we're going to learn a couple things. We're going to learn about grouping objects together. We're going to learn about being able to see what comes to the front, what goes to the back. We're going to see about using mainly the Select and Direct Select tool. So I want you to go ahead and open up Adobe Illustrator on your icons. So if you click your icons right here, click on Adobe Illustrator. Mine's already up. And I need you to open up the Lesson 2 file that should be inside our class folder. I'm at home, I'm not at school, so I can't show you because it's on the network. But if you go to our V drive and you click on the V drive, you get inside Mrs. McCoy and you find third period graphic design. Inside that class folder, you will see the Illustrator lessons, and you have two options. The end one just shows you what the end product's going to look like. You don't have to open that unless you want to, just to see what the finished one's going to look like. But click on the lesson to start. And this is what we're working with today, this cute little snowman. So we are going to learn a couple different skills and tools, and our Frosty's going to help us. So what I want you guys to do is to save this as a folder inside your folder. So inside your student folder with your name on it, go ahead and create a new folder. And the way you do that is this. Let's pretend that this is my folder. In the white space, you're going to right click and you're going to go to New, Folder, and let's type Illustrator Lessons. And inside there, you're going to save this. Okay? So let's get out of here. We're going to go to File, Save As, and let's call it L2 and your name. And save it inside your Illustrator Lessons file, and that way this is already saved. You can turn this in for me. Just hit OK when you get to there. You can turn this in when I'm ready to look at it, make sure that you've got everything done and that you did it correctly. All right, next thing we're going to do is reset our central workspace. So we're going to go to Window. We're going to go to Workspace. And remember, we did this last lesson too. Essentials is checked. You're going to go to Reset Essentials. That just puts everything back the way that it should be. And we want to align everything so we can see it well. So we want to go to View. And we're going to go to Fit All in Window. And that gives us a good central view of both of our items here. All right. We want to zoom in to the eyeballs that are going to be the snowman's eyeballs. So you have two options, several options. You can hold down the Control button and plus, and that zooms in. But as you can see, that zooms you into the middle of the artboard. Control minus zooms you out. And if you hold down the Control key and you hit 0, that takes you to whichever artboard is selected. So we have the second artboard selected called Pieces right here. So if you hit Control 0, it will zoom you in to just that artboard. But the zoom tool, on the other hand, which, by the way, if you're not sure what a tool is, if you hover over top of it, it tells you. The zoom tool is, shortcut for that is Z. So if, let's say, choose any tool, any other tool, move over to the side here, and just hit the Z on your keyboard. It will go ahead and take you, it should, I don't know why this is not. Let me choose another one. Okay, I don't know why that's not working at the moment. It normally does. If you hit Z, it takes you to the zoom, but for some reason on my keyboard it's not. For yours it might have worked. Sometimes little glitches like that come up. If it does, just click it or move on. Okay, so I'm going to hit the zoom tool, and what you can do is just over top those eyes, and it brings them in close to you. And this right here is the reason why Illustrator is really nice. It's a vector program like we've talked about. You can zoom way in and everything's nice and crisp and clear. And so what I'm going to do is show you the difference between the Select tool and the Direct Select tool. So right now the first thing we're going to do is to choose our Select tool. And it's the top two up here. If you hover over the left one, it tells you it's called the Selection tool. The shortcut is V. Let's try that again. I'm going to click on the Type tool, and if I hit V, it goes right to it. It worked that time. I don't know why it didn't for the zoom, but it worked for this one. So this is the Selection tool. And if you click on the circle, you'll notice that it selects that circle, and you have 8 different points that go around this box. If you hover over it, you can see it allows you to rotate or stretch. And then you see these little purplish, pinkish words that appear. Right now it says path, and I'm going to go over here, it says anchor. Path means the space in between your anchors. The anchors, which are these little squares, are what allows you to adjust the shape. So I'm going to play around just for a minute. You don't have to do this, just watch. If I grab an anchor, I can adjust it however I want. And each anchor area allows me to adjust just that section of it, okay? I'm going to go ahead and I want to revert back. I want to get rid of this, what I did. So I'm going to hold down Control and Z, and I'm going to keep clicking Z until it gets me back to my space the way it was, to my circle the way it was. All right, so here I have it. So with the Direct Select tool, I can select the entire shape. I can drag a marquee around part of the shape and it selects all of it. If I hold down the Shift key, I can select the second shape, and whatever I do to one happens to the other if they're both selected. So that is the selection tool. Let's show you the Direct Selection tool and what the difference is. So if I click over here, it'll deselect it. You can also go to, I think it's, let's see, where is it? Oh, select and deselect, which I don't need. It's grayed out right now because I clicked over here on the side. So right here is the Direct Selection tool. And what I want you guys to do is go ahead and click on the Direct Selection tool. If you notice, the shortcut for that is A. So like if I was on another tool, I just choose the Type tool as mine and I hit the key A, it takes me right to it. You can click on it or you can learn these shortcuts. Whatever you want to do is up to you. All right, so in contrast to the Selection tool, the Direct Selection tool allows you to click the individual anchor points. So let's say if I click this part of the anchor point, I am only selecting this anchor right here, which means if I move this part, instead of moving all the shapes, it just moves that section right there. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo. And I'm also going to show you, if I use a marquee, that's this little rectangle that I'm drawing right now. If I click and hold and drag over top of it, it doesn't select all of the anchor points when you're in Direct Select. What it does is select just the area that you drew. So it isn't going to allow you to manipulate the entire shape. It only allows you to manipulate part of the shape. I'm going to Control Z to undo. And I'll show you that if I select over the top of these two, it will select just the anchor points that I drew. So if I adjust this one up and they're both selected, it also mimics the other side, which is great because like this is a pair of eyeballs. So if I wanted the eyes to look different, I obviously want them to match. It's nice when you select both of them at the same time and it'll match. And if you didn't want the whole shape to change, you just wanted the top of the shape to change, you can use the Direct Select tool, which is what we have now, Direct Selection tool. I keep calling it Select, it's actually Direct Selection. And you select part of it and then adjust them both at the same time. I'm going to hit Control and Z to undo it because I don't want that to stay permanent. So that's the difference. So once again, if I was on the Selection tool and I selected both of these, all I have to do is draw partial and it selects the entire shape. If I'm on the Direct Selection tool and I select only part of it, it doesn't do the entire shape, just where I selected it with a marquee. Okay, so that's it for selection and Direct Selection. That's the big difference between the two of them. A path and an anchor, what I really want you to know is that your path is this space, this curved line area, any area that the shape goes around. Your anchor are these little teeny squares that allow you to adjust part of the shape. Okay, so the difference between the Selection tool and the Direct Select is that the Selection selects the entire shape and Direct Select only selects the area that you touch, the individual anchor points that you touch. Okay, next up, I'm going to show you how to use the Direct Selection tool, and what we're going to do is align some of the shapes and work with just manipulating them a little bit. So we're going to choose View, Fit All in Window, and I want to work with these shapes right here. So click on your Zoom tool and go over here and draw a space around those, and it's going to zoom us in, which is great. And what we're going to do is we're going to adjust some of these. We're going to play a little bit with some of these. So let me grab my notes real quick. All right, so we're going to do direct select tool right here, and we're going to hover over this green shape. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, oh sorry, I said direct select tool, this one. I'm going to hover over here, this green shape, and I'm going to select this top left little square. And so if you notice, this is blue because I selected this anchor. But if I go over here to this other anchor, all the other ones are white, which means they're not selected. In Illustrator, if it's blue, it means that's what's selected. So because I selected this one, it's turned blue on me. And that's the main thing that you want to notice when you're trying to decide, you know, what's blue, you know, what you're selecting, what you're adjusting. You can look at the colors. So since I've moved this direct selection tool, what I can do is I can take this one point, and if I adjust it up, you notice it only adjusts what I selected. It doesn't affect the rest of it. And that's the difference between the selection tool and the direct select. So if I went to the selection tool over here to this shape and I did the same thing, it affects the whole shape. So you can see the difference between the two of them. I'm going to Control Z on both of these because I don't want them to stay that way. And you can notice that the difference between the two shapes is that one affects the entire shape, one affects part of that shape. All right, so what I want to do is we're going to use the marquee to just kind of help us gather in certain areas of an object. And we're going to work with hiding and locking objects. So what I want to do is go to View, and we're going to do Fit All in Window, and we're going to work on this artboard. So you can click the previous artboard button down here, and it takes us just to the face of our snowman. Hello, snowman. And what we're going to do is go ahead and notice how to lock backgrounds, how to move things. There's times where you want to work on one part of your design, but you don't want the rest of it to be affected or adjusted at all. And what you can do, so if I am right here and I have the selection tool selected, which I did, click on this blue background and go ahead and move it. Notice that it shifts the entire shape of that background away. And maybe you weren't trying to grab the background. Maybe you wanted to grab part of the snowman's head, but it affected the background and you didn't want the background to move. So Control and the Z key, and that will undo what we just did. And what we're going to do is we're going to lock the background to make sure that it can't do something that we don't want it to do. And in order to lock the background, what we're going to do is, let's see, we're going to do Object Lock Selection. Sorry guys, I'm reading from my notes as I do this, so sometimes it's a little bit of a pause. Object Lock Selection. And what happens now, try to move that blue background, you can't move it. Okay, so that's great. Our background won't move, and now we can work with the rest of the snowman without anything else getting in our way. So we're going to choose the selection tool, which we're already on, and we're going to drag the entire head of the snowman in here. The hat, the head, everything. And if you notice, I got the scarf. I didn't want the scarf, so I'm going to click off of this, and I'm going to very slowly drag. And because I'm in selection tool, not direct selection, I don't have to go to the entire head of the snowman. As long as I get part of the shape in there, it will select everything that I want. And that's what I want. In this case, we want to leave the eyes and get rid of the rest of the head. So we're going to hide the rest of it, but we want the eyeballs to remain. So if you take and hit the Shift key, hold down Shift, keep holding it down, select the eyes, and notice that, sorry, I'm working with that they're no longer lit up in blue. Everything is lit up in blue except for the eyes. And that means that everything, whatever we're about to do is only going to affect the areas in blue and not going to affect the eyeballs. So what I want to do is to hide it. So I'm going to do, let me look at my notes real quick. We're going to go to Object, Hide, Selection. Object, Hide, Selection. And what happens is what we hid disappears. It's still there, it's just no longer in our view. And we know this because we can still see the eyeballs that we had left on, but the rest of it's gone. Let's save this. So we're going to go to File and Save. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on how to select things that have similar objects to them. We're going to work on this scarf, and let's go to our second artboard. So right here, if you go from, you can either do it this way. You can either choose two to go to the second artboard, or I'm going to go back to what I was. You can hit the arrow. So sometimes if you had like 10 different artboards, you could just keep hitting that arrow to go over, or you could choose the actual name of your artboard. You get a chance to name it as you're working with artboards, and you could do it that way. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to pick the selection tool again, which we're still on it. And I want to zoom in a little bit to get to this area. So I'm going to just hit Control and plus, and then I'm going to use my scroll button over here on the side just to get a little bit closer in here. All right, and now that I've done that, what I want to do is to select one of the blue circles. And I want to do select same fill color. So I'm going to go to select, same, and fill color. And notice because it's looking for that same blue, it selects both of them. So let me show you, if you're not sure what fill is what it sounds like. It's the color that fills a shape. And you have two areas that you can adjust that. You can do it up here, or you can do it down here. So when you look at the eyeballs, they are just blue. They actually don't have a border on them. A border is called a stroke, and you can see that right here. So if you see this little white area with a red line through it, that means that there's no stroke on this object. But the scarf pieces down here, on the other hand, they all have a black line around them, and that black line is the stroke. So if I clicked this red shape for the scarf, you can see that it shows me the fill color is this color. And if I double clicked it, I could choose any other color I wanted. Let's say I picked this. It now changes my color based off of what I choose. I'm going to hit Control and Z to undo that because I don't want that to stay. I just wanted to show you guys. You also can change your stroke that way too. So if I click on this, you notice that the stroke is black. It says it here. But if I was to say pink instead, it chooses pink for the stroke. Control Z to undo because I don't want that to stay. All right, so if you have a lot of objects that you're trying to get together, you can also select by stroke. So if I choose this red object, I can go to select and I can say same stroke color. And it selects everything with the same stroke color. And let's say I know I'm going to be working with this scarf area a lot, and I don't want to have to keep going back and forth and trying to select all these objects. So you can either take and draw a marquee around them, or you can save this selection. So if you go to select and you do save selection, let's call it scarf, and OK. So what that means is I'm going to click over here. Let's say I'm clicked on the eyeball now. Go ahead and click on the eyeball. And, oh, I really wish I was working on that scarf again. I meant to go back and do something with that scarf area. All you would do is go to select, and now your scarf is saved down here. So if you hit scarf, it selects all those pieces again for you automatically. Whatever you apply to that, it's going to apply all at the same time. So if I wanted to change the stroke color, I could. If I wanted to change the fill color, I could. Notice the fill has a question mark in there, and the reason it has a question mark is because you have more than one fill color. So it's saying, what? I don't know what you want me to say to you. There's red and there's green, so it's a question mark. It doesn't understand your what you're trying to do. Okay, so now that we have that selected, you can see that there's multiple ways, and we've got the scarf saved. Very good. Next thing I want to do is to show you guys how to select an outline mode. So we're going to go back to our frosty head. So if you select down here, you can hit the arrow or you can choose it, and we want to select in outline mode. But first, to do that, we need to see the head again. So since we had hidden it before, we're going to show it. We're going to go to Object, and we're going to do Show All. And now Frosty's head is back again. Hello, Frosty. Good to see you. And we are going to go ahead and try to select something when it's in outline mode. Outline mode is a cool feature that takes away all the color. So if you notice, you can click inside. Right now, if I want to click this eyeball, I could click it and it selects the whole shape because the eyeball has a fill. It has a white fill, right? But when you're in outline mode, fill is not recognized. So if we're going to go to View, and we're going to go to Outline. And notice that now it's like the very drawing. It looks like a coloring book for you to fill in. But if I try to select this eye in here by clicking in the middle, I can't, because I have to actually click the outside edge. So again, if I try to select this eye, I can only do it really if I hit the middle point or one of these. If I try to click in this, it won't let me, but if I click right there, it'll let me. So unless you are selecting in full color mode, you have to be careful when you select in outline mode. But this is really helpful sometimes, because sometimes color gets in the way and you just want to see where your edges are on something. You can go to outline mode. You can also select in outline mode by doing this. If I'm just going to drag the marquee over these two, and then it allows me to see it. And sometimes that's very helpful. There's times where like where his head is white and the eyeballs are white and you're just like, I can't really make out what's what. You can go to outline mode to kind of help you get a grip on that. To go back to color mode, you go to View, Preview on CPU, and there you go, your colors are back again. All right, very good.